Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Prologue. I'm Kevin Landis, your host, and I'm coming to you tonight actually because I thought maybe you'd get tired of seeing my living room from the Overlook Dance Studio on the campus of the University of Colorado at Colorado Springs. And while every month is Dance Month for us here in the Theater and Dance program, we realize that we haven't focused on dance in any of our prologues very recently. And so we decided from a prologue perspective to look at various forms of dance, starting tonight with KT Nelson, continuing next Monday with Larry Kegwin, and then a special hip-hop dance program on the 15th that AJ Vafiades is going to moderate. All of this will culminate in March with we hope, socially distanced, safe, but in-person production of Hecatome, which is a new piece that is choreographed by one of our seniors, Olivia Langley. So we're just celebrating dance for the next month. And I don't want to say too much because I'd rather just dive into this. Our first guest is extraordinary. It has been so wonderful to get to know her over the last few weeks as we've planned this. I'm going to just say what we're going to do tonight is more technically advanced than we've ever done, so bear with us. We're going to be figuring this out as we go along. But before I bring KT in, I just want to thank TheaterWorks, the Department of Visual and Performing Arts, the UCCS Chancellor's Office, and the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences Dean's Office. We wouldn't be able to do this without them and their generous support. KT Nelson, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Prologue.
Thank you, Kevin. It's wonderful to be here, and thank you all for coming.
So what you don't all know out there's two groups that are attending Prologue. We have, and you're going to see them a little later, a group of about 12 students from UCCS and around the community who are going to be participating in an interactive thing later in the hour. But we're also going to be asking you at home to participate either through the chat function on YouTube, if you want to play with that, but also to just do the exercises that KT is going to show us. But before we jump into that, KT, I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and ODC Dance. What is this company and how did you come to start working with them?
Well, ODC stands for Oberlin Dance Collective once upon a time from 1971, which is when we were founded. So we're 50 years old this year. It was founded by Brenda Way, who was a professor at Oberlin College. And it toured and made work for the summer in something called a winter term, which was a break at Oberlin in the winter season, and the company would tour twice a year. That company had a filmmaker, a songwriter, a painter. It was not just dancers and more or less theater artists. It was a collection of people who wanted to make work. And I went to Oberlin in 1975, and when they were all leaving to go to San Francisco in 1976, because Brenda decided to take her sabbatical year and see if she could actually make a full-time dance company in a real city, I said, sure. So I ran off with everybody and joined them in San Francisco. And I think the thing about ODC is that it has always tried to create a context. So we always, from the very beginning, we invited other artists to perform. We had a performance series. We taught class, and we made our own work. And each of us made our own work. So I would make my work, and everybody in the collection would be in it. And then someone else would make work, and I would be their dancer. So we would just shift around roles, which did make you empathetic for the director role and the dancer role. Let me just say, sometimes I think we forget these days when we want more and more from each other. And then the other thing that ODC seemed to be really good at is buying buildings. So the first thing we did in 1977 or 76, we rented a space. We all remodeled. That means we redid the floors. We put up the gray wall and painted it. And then our landlord wanted it because it was so nice. So then the rent went up and we left, and eventually we bought a building. So I believe we were the first dance company in the country to buy a building. It was an old stables in the Mission District in San Francisco, and we renovated that as well. And just a really fun fact, because we were also presenting other artists. The Jazz Tap Ensemble was our first present, and we had half the floor in. We had porta potties, and we had construction lights set up because that's all we could get in. But we had the show anyways, and it got reviewed, and it was great. But just like, we didn't quite make it, but it still all worked out. A little bit like pandemic times, right? So anyway, I want to say the last thing is that by the 1980s, a lot of the non-dancers left. A lot of the artists who was tired of making buildings and renovating buildings went back to New York. And there was only 4 of us left. And eventually there was only 3 of us left who stayed in San Francisco to make ODC happen. And it's gone through many transformations since then. And it now owns 2 buildings. It has tons of classes. It has so much going on. You should look it up on the website.
I mean, KT, it's a story of, of pluck and ingenuity, as a lot of sort of, beginnings of theater and dance companies are. A couple of things. I thought maybe we should start with this video that you shared with us. Would you tell us, do you want to set it up, or should we just watch it?
I think I can set it up a little bit. This is a video we made for an outreach program. It was about engaging dance audiences. And we wanted to invite the general public into the world of dance, which is not an easy thing. And the idea in this film is that we watch a dance being made. Great. That's all I'll say. Okay.
Jared, when you're ready, take it away. We'll watch this piece and talk about it on the other side.
I don't know the last time I thought about modern dance.
Free movement, energy.
I don't know very much about modern dance.
I know it's out there.
My impression of modern dance is pretty limited.
Very abstract, I guess. Very real, fresh.
It makes me feel alive.
It's pretty lame.
Well, some dances can be boring.
Not sure I understand it.
It's different. It's totally bizarre. I don't know if it's not ballet.
It's street walking and talking and moving.
Goes with the flow.
Sensual.
True and raw.
Free form. You can do whatever you want. A very artistic interpretation of everyday life.
That's so great. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I have about 1.5 million questions, but I'll keep it simple. The thing that sort of resonated with me the most, obviously, is the beginning and the interviews. What is modern dance? And just if you'll allow me this preface to the question, we're a theater and dance program, but I was really taken with what you were saying about how ODC started really as a collective around many different forms of art. One of the things I find is sometimes there's a perception of modern dance, like you found with those interviews on the street, that people are worried that they won't be able to access it, or there's an anxiety around that.
Yeah.
Is that what you find? And how do you work through that anxiety with the people that you're working with?
Yes, I think it is true. I think, as I think one woman said, lame. But and I think there are many reasons for it. We have seen so many films. We've read lots of books. We've now listened to a lot of podcasts. We are familiar with those forms. So when something is really different in those forms, we understand that they're different. We can delight in it or not like it, but we understand sort of the bottom line of what is meant to be in that form. And I think most people have not had a lot of exposure to dance. That's one thing. And in particular, modern dance. Many people do know ballet. And to some degree, I'd say now many people know hip hop because it has been able to migrate into the streets and into the virtual world with a relative ease. So they sort of know what to see. But for the most part, people don't know what to make of it. And I would say that one of the things that I think is accessible about ODC, and I'm going to do a little demo here. So ballet is like you were made for the kings and queens, and you were lifted up, and so much of ballet is up and out. Modern dance is like straightforward and very severe. All right. And then ODC is part of something called postmodern, where the human body is shown. Like we're walking, our arms swing, we're not held. We are in our physical body, everyday body, which a little bit is what that film just showed. We are walking and talking and leaning and waiting and looking. And we use that in our material so that when somebody sees that at the top of the dance or in the middle of the dance, you can sort of relate a little bit more to that being. That's dancing. It's not some extreme thing. And then I want to say one other thing. If someone's an actor and they say something weird, you're like, oh, that was weird. But if someone does something weird with their body, you're like, whoa. And our bodies are more mysterious. They are less articulate and we understand them less. So it's a territory that's much more vulnerable as far as expression. So I would say that's the other side of that.
Well, that's really interesting you said that. I teach a movement class here, KT, and one of the things I tell the students is be careful that you're not just brains on tripods, right? That we actually express through, because we're all, at a university, we're thinking a lot.
Yes.
And that's not to say that there isn't extraordinary amount of that sort of depth of thought with dance either, but we've taught ourselves to be less connected, I think many of us, to our bodies. And I think one of the trip ups I also see with theater people approaching dance, and a lot of our subscribers are theater subscribers, is sometimes it's harder for them to understand the story because there's no, often no text. Would you take apart the piece that we just saw that you choreographed and talk a little bit about how you approach it from a standpoint of story?
Yes, I actually wrote the script for that, so I can. And the idea, there was a physical story, which is from expansive out in the city, essentially into a theatrical elevator from the real world to the stage, right? So that there was a spatial story, then there was sort of a setting story. And then it was, can you see this body walk and stop and look? Now it's doing a little bit more. Can you still look at it? Are you still engaged with it? Since you met it walking and talking or looking, and you were okay watching it that way. Now watch it do something a little more intimate. Mm-hmm. And can you still watch it and feel comfortable? So I say that's the story. Yeah. And also boy meets girl. Sorry, that's in there.
and of course, Romeo and Juliet is all over the top of it and all that sort of stuff.
That is a familiar story, which allows people to access the dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But one of the things you said about the style is that in some ways it really is accessible because it starts from just everyday movements that we always do.
Yes.
You talked, in fact, I should probably turn to this. You asked us to ask our YouTube followers something that they've recently made. And I was wondering, I'm going to read off a few that have come up, and we can talk about, how this works into your aesthetic. So here are a few. My first YouTube video, a library of Pilates videos.
Ooh, okay.
A digital drawing attempt to express difficult to describe emotions or feelings. Curtains with an exclamation point. Masks. Cool. A digital planner for myself. Needlepoint pillows. So why is it important? Why, first of all, why that exercise? Why do you want to know what is something that we've made and how do you apply that to your aesthetic and work?
Because as an audience member, observer, if you can tap into the feeling of something unfolding, which is, okay, I'm going to make a mask. I have to get the pattern. I have to figure out the fabric. I have to do the thread. I mean, I have to size it. There's a certain amount of math. And there's a series of procedures you go through that take you further into the process. Like mentally, you start leaving the world and go into your process, and you're making decisions at every moment. And the more comfortable you get making masks, then you say, oh, well, what if I do this to the mask? Or what if I did? Then you start making variations. So I wanted to just say to the audience, all of you have been in some kind of process of creation. You have different ways you set your material up, how you plan your execution, how much you allow yourself to go off the plan, and so that is what artists do. You might not even consider yourself an artist, but you do a process of making. And I, like you, wanting to bring a little more intimacy into the body so it's not so mechanized. Like I can do the treadmill, I can run so many miles, and I can lift so many weights. But the feeling body, do you remember rolling down the lawn? Do you remember jumping on your parents' bed? Do you remember falling? It's like those are the things that will help you see dance. And if you remember making things, it'll help you appreciate the craft of dance.
KT, before we jump into our workshop with some of the students around here, I wonder if I could ask you a little bit more about ODC and how ODC has become such an important company in the United States. And I should offer to the audience that you were all planning to be with us in person as part of the artist series this semester. Obviously, an international pandemic got in the way of that, but we hope that you will be joining us in the fall so you can work with our students and present to our community. Could you say a little bit about how ODC and other dance companies that you've observed are grappling with this not being able to be with each other, to be tactile, to do the sorts of things that are so important to dance? How are you involving? What are some of the things that are great about the new technologies that you learned, and what are the things you can't wait to get rid of?
I think that, first of all, there's a lot of mourning, because I think for most of us, the part that we really, the reason why we make another decision about what we're doing is because we saw two bodies in space moving and we want to put them together a certain way. So it's hard to not be in that context. Yes, you can rehearse outside, but for the most part, we're making solos and filming them. Occasionally you'll find two people that happen to pod together, therefore they can dance together, and you might make a duet. But mostly we're mourning. Let's say. And then I would say, there are people that are dancing outside with masks, not really gathering an audience, just doing it in the streets, and trying to keep the performative aspect of our form present in people's lives. But most people are on film. Most people are doing things like this. It gives us a chance to go a little more personally into process and why we do things and what does something mean, to get to know a human being that's doing something, and maybe it'll make more sense when I see your work. So I think it's sort of a reaching. I do think Zoom is, or Skype or whatever format you're using, is a chance to both sort of educate and also informally know, not formal education, but informally get to know a process or the person who's making work. It's not a lecture. So there's something easier access, and you can ask questions and you can think about things, and so that's where, and then dance on film, which I think will grow greatly during this pandemic, about how things are made and why they're made, and so that form is going to really, I think, explode as far as its trajectory and its development. And I've seen lots of people do wonderful things, and people also just put up their performance from 2012 and show it and talk about it. So
Wendy just threw out a question, which I want to ask you as well. ODC is so committed to teaching, which is one of the reasons we love ODC. Has that been able to continue in this format?
Well, Kimi Okada runs our school, and she's had to change things up. Some classes go well on Zoom. I would say improv classes where the teacher can talk and people can walk through and move how they want. Ballet goes pretty well because people already know what the sequence is. Modern dance, I think, is a little more difficult. I know Kimi has started something called Fun House at ODC. That's for our youth and teen program. And it's, you don't worry about dancing. Okay, we got pillows today. What are we going to do with pillows? Okay, we got, we're going to work with hanging on door frames. And so it's just about exploring the body in a space so that it's not worried about technique so much, but ideas about dance and ideas about how your body can move. And Kimi also got, for the teen work program, they're teaching teens how to make dance on film.
Well, let's say we jump in and actually try something. We were going to take a few minutes here. We practiced a little bit beforehand, but we've got on. Hopefully, you'll see on screen a bunch of dancers, non-dancers, arts enthusiasts, people who just love art from the community. I see Jan is here and Tiffany. So we have wonderful dance companies and represented here, and Beth is with us. So tell us, lead us through this. What are we going to do, PT?
Okay, and at home, you're the YouTube folks. Hi, good to see you. And my Zoom family here, my immediate Zoom family. I thought we would get up. Why don't you stand up? This is something you can't do you can do in the theater, but you most likely wouldn't. So we're having this pandemic opportunity to be on Zoom together. Stand up. And just right now, can you bend your knees for me? Bend your knees and then straighten. Again, then you can bounce a little bit down there if you want. And the rules here are pretty easy. And bend and straighten. So now we're just going to you're going to follow me, because we're going to end up making an arm phrase. And I thought we'd just explore different ways arms are used. So you're bending your knees and you just lift your arms up as you straighten. And bring your arms down nice and straight. Now let's go out to the side and up. And then let's just do that again. It's going to go forward, this big straight arms. And down. And side. Do that again one last time. Forward, long arms, up. And down. And up. So that's just a very simple way the arms move. Now let's try waving the arms. So unfold and come down and out to the side and come down, forward again and unfold and bring them down and out and then one last wave and wave up. You've done this in baseball, some of you, I know. And out. And now let's try a new idea. Let's just throw our arms. Throw. And throw. and throw, and throw. So throw up, throw down, throw side, throw down. Again, last time, throw up, throw down. Very different feeling, rump, and down. Okay, now let's just try swinging an arm. One of the things I love about dancing is gravity and momentum. So just feel this is a free-for-all. You don't have to look like anything or worry about. Just feel the weight of the arm, and it might move the torso. That's totally great. Okay, now last idea for an arm. There's arm gestures. Hey, just try any arm gesture. Yeah. Huh. All right, play with some arm gestures. We all know this from Zoom. Yeah. Now I'm playing with Kevin. Okay. All right. Yes. Okay. So there's gestures. All right. So now, are you all with me at home and on Zoom? I want you to make 3 arm gestures or arm movements. 1, 2, 3. So let's practice our first one. Any move. Just go. This is mine. 1. You can do whatever you want. Yes. Let's try that again. Try your first move again. 1. And one last time. 1. Okay, let's try a second move. Your number 2 move. Okay, let's try that again. Number 2 move. All right, and one more time. Number 2 move. All right, let's sequence move 1 to move 2. 1, 2. Okay, good. Let's practice our third move. You have 3 chances to figure out what it is. And 1. That's our third move. Whatever third move you want. Okay, and last time, third move. All right, so now let's try 1, 2, 3. And 1, move, 2 move, third move. One more time. And sequencing 1 move, 2 move, third move. Okay, good. Let's try it faster, just see what happens. Practice your sequencing. 1, 2, 3. Okay, it's a little harder when it gets faster. Okay, so now, so we all have a 3-count arm phrase. It's yours. If you mess up, it can still be yours. So don't worry about it. We're going to change it. We're going to treat it. This is one of the things I do in choreography. I start with something and then I might put it on the floor, or I might have one person just do one arm of it. So it's called problem solving or treating a phrase. So we're going to treat our phrase. The first thing you're going to do is repeat one of your 3 moves, which will make you have 4 moves. All right. I highly recommend, if you have trouble remembering the sequence, which some of us do repeat at the beginning or at the end. Okay. So here we go. So 4 moves, and move 1, move 2, move 3, move 4. Okay, let's just do that again. And move 1, move 2, move 3, move 4. Great. One last time, a little faster. And 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, great. Now you're going to add a move somewhere in this 4-count phrase, anywhere you want, and it's going to be a head move. So you can look, you're going to shake, you can go, you can go, no. Whatever you want to do, okay? A head move anywhere you want. Okay. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. So we all have 5 moves. Here you go. Jared is laughing. That's a good thing. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, good. One last time, just a tad faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. The third thing we're going to do with our phrase is we're going to hide one of our gestures. So this is one of my gestures. I could hide it. Or this is one of my gestures. I could hide myself doing it. Or I could hide myself doing this. All right? So I'm going to give you a moment. Which gesture do you want to hide? Just think about it. Okay. So we still have just 5 moves, but one of them gets hidden. On your mark, get set, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, great. A little faster. We're going to get to each time. We're going to do it a tad faster. A little faster. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And faster. And 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 5. I got lost. That's what happens. Okay, give yourselves a hand. That was great. I hope you enjoyed it. Now we're gonna go into the Zoom room with my Zoom family here. Thank you all for being here. And I'm going to ask if Delaney, can we spotlight Delaney, Jared? And she's going to show us her arm phrase, okay? Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I saw in like a synopsis. I'm going to say what the dynamic of the phrase was. What was the shape of the phrase? And I would say twisty release or twisty shakedown. Twist and release down. And one of the reasons why I like to do this is it helps you remember the shape of what you saw. I mean, if you remember the shape, you remember what you saw, and you can sort of hold it inside and reflect on it. When you go to the movie, you try to feel the whole thing. When you go hear a piece of music, the whole thing. That helps you hold it inside you. Okay, Wendy, let's see your phrase. Let's spotlight Wendy. Okay, I would say a little more monodynamic, jointy cage is what I would give it. So it's a little less of it sort of almost builds on itself and hides itself as opposed to unfolds in a line. All right. Okay, so now everybody at home, you are welcome to join us. We are going to draw a diagram of the shape of your arm phrase. And I'm going to take everybody in the Zoom room onto our whiteboard. And there, we forgot to clear our practice. Okay, so anyway, I would like you to draw a diagram of your arm phrase. What was the shape of your phrase? Your 5-count phrase. Okay, so I would say lots of dynamics. Ooh, nice. I like that big arrow. Got a nice strong feeling of something. All right, now I'm going to ask everybody to text a word or a few words, a phrase that give the gist of your arm phrase. Okay, I'm looking for some more text. There we go. Wonderful, everybody. So this is another way to remember what you've seen. It's just like an image or a feeling that you can hold on to. All right, now we're gonna all go back to Zoom. Thank you all for participating, by the way. And okay, great. Now I'm going to ask Caleb to be spotlighted. And he's going to do his phrase, but Caleb, can you come back and unmute yourself because you're going to teach us your phrase?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
So everybody stand up and learn Caleb's phrase.
All right. We're going to make a right angle with the hand facing down. So that's the first move. So 1. Then we'll push our hand forward across the body. So we'll do that one more time, pushing it across. Those two together, right angle, hand facing down, push the air across. Then we'll swing the arms together across the body. That's move 3. We'll do that one more time. Swing. All 3 of those together. 1, 2, push. 3, swing. Then the head will follow. That's the 4th move. So the head looks down, looks at your hand. And then we repeat the swing again, leaving our head there.
Okay. And let's do it.
Try that all together?
Yeah, let's
Great.
try it all together. Do it slow, medium, and then a little faster. See what it feels like. Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3, head 4, 5, swing the arms. A little bit faster. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now a little bit faster than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, now where's your hiding gesture?
Oh, sorry. That would usually be the arm in the beginning.
Okay, let's do that. Everybody hide your gesture. Okay, and.
Right. So hide the arm, push across. Swing, head, swing.
Okay, good. All right, thank you all. All right, it's hard to learn, it's hard to make up, but the more we practice, the better we get at it. So,
Katie,
yeah,
this is fabulous. I wonder. I want to make sure there's a little bit of time. If those of us on the
we're
street
good. Yeah.
have a question for KT or can talk a little bit about your response to it, I think if you throw up your hand on your virtual hand, I'll be able to, or Jared and I will be able to see you. But while people are gathering the questions or the courage to ask the questions, it's really interesting that what you just took us through in some ways in an exercise form feels to me similar to what we watched in the video at the beginning of the, is that sort of the way that sort of a video was developed with that sort of technique?
Really that video got developed because we said, now just start following people on the street. And then when we saw somebody do something interesting, or they just decided like 3 of them would do the same thing as one person would do. But that is also what happens in rehearsal. Somebody has an idea, the director goes to that person and says, can you do this? And then other people start to watch, and they tend to, if they see that I'm interested in it, then they start learning it or trying ideas on it. So it evolves pretty organically. One of the things I wanted to say, I see from Athena, how do you decide what to keep and what to throw out? Well, one of the other exercises I didn't do in this is I could edit something out. I do think I think there are many stages of the creative process. One, you prepare yourself. You figure out what's motivating you. You get your materials. You maybe have different kinds of music in rehearsal or no music. Maybe you're using some film for stimulation. You don't know. You get your materials. And then the first thing you do is you sort of generate materials like that really matter, that you specify the actual language you're going to use in the piece. Then you do a lot of generating. You take the phrase you made, like this arm phrase, you put it on the floor, you do it really teeny, and you have 4 people doing it. And then you just have one person doing it on the ground. Or then you have everybody doing it tipping toeing across the stage, and it's really delicate. You try different things, and then you edit. And editing, I would say, is just as a rigorous and stressful stage as generating. And some of us are much easier generating, and it's much harder to figure out what to take out. There's a, I think in the visual arts, they say, if you're having trouble with what you're making, take out the thing you love most, because you're stuck on it and you can't see what's actually there. One of the things that I said earlier is that what I love, and I did this later as a choreographer, is like, I'm so trying to get whatever's in my head out. But once people are working and you've asked them to work on something and you see somebody make a mistake, or you see somebody copying somebody because they were not there the day before and they're doing it wrong, or they're doing it outrageously funny. And you say, oh, that mistake or that weird thing that someone just tried because they didn't know what was going on, I love. That's what I want. So I think that there is something about you in the creative process. You try to get your idea on the floor. At some point, I often say to the dancers, I am having trouble with this section or this transition. I don't feel what needs to happen, but actually what's happening more in your body about what this piece is now than what was in my head. Can you try some different things? Like, I feel at some point they own the piece more than I do, because it's in their bodies and they can make more sense of it. And I also think this is true about you just have to step back and see what is there, not necessarily what you intended. And that is one of the hardest kind of severings you have to do inside. What did I make? Now what does it need?
Are there questions for those of you here on the Zoom? And if you want to type questions in on the chat, if those of you, I'm following the chat as well, so I can touch in on those as well. But if you're on the Zoom and you want to ask a question, just unmute and go for it.
I also would love to hear anybody's chat or Zoom experience in making the arm phrase. Anybody want to share what they experienced?
Caleb, I see your hand. Go ahead.
Great. I was just curious, what is the dancer choreographer relationship like in the rehearsal room when you're developing a piece at ODC?
This is a very important question these days, because I think this relationship shifts a lot depending on who you're working with. I would say that the choreographer tends to be more of the director. The ODC dancers generate a lot of the movement. I often will come in with a phrase and they'll learn it, but after that they make variations off of it. And sometimes, like, I had a prompt once that I wanted everybody to be an individual, and I asked them to make self-portraits of themselves. So they had to take some kind of pose and make self-portraits, and then they had to take 10 lines, any 10 lines, and draw them, but they had to use some part of their body other than their hand. So that was my elbow drawing this line, and then they sequenced, and that became their sort of solo phrase. And some I loved and some I threw out. But so the nature of the problem I give is part of trying to get them into a different kind of world that I'm thinking of, or the world I'm thinking of, and or I might actually bring in material. But they, in general, are major collaborators, and I do feel that I direct the shape of the work, and then every once in a while, like, I don't know what to do here. Anybody have any ideas? and usually someone's idea in the room works. But now the piece is more in their bodies and less in my imagination. So I trust their bodies to know what is needed.
I see Tiffany has a question, but before Tiffany, if I jump in really quick, I just noticed from the chat, people at home were definitely following along and doing it, because I'm seeing casual, jagged release, whoopee snap done, falling, lumpy lines, swooping. So I wish I could have seen all of them.
Yeah, lumpy lines. Thank
lumpy
you.
Lines, right? Yeah. Tiffany, go ahead with your question.
KT, I wanted to ask how your process has changed when you've been choreographing for several decades. How has your approach to creating movement evolved over time?
Well, I do think here's one of the harder things about being a choreographer. I love dancing, but it gets harder and harder to actually move the way you imagine as you get older. And I think that is part of letting go and allowing these other bodies to speak for you. So I would say that I move much less in rehearsal. And I do my own thing at home, but I do it less in rehearsal. I think that I really try to find ways to emotionally get the dancer ready for the work instead of physically now, which is just, I think, a shift of my creative process. That's how some choreographers start, with the emotional realm. But, once I asked, I made a piece for 5 Gentlemen. I said, go do a solo about something that happened to you that nobody knows. And I don't want to know the story, And so it's a very private thing. And that's what those solos were. And that material got used. But it's putting them in as much as a psychological state as it is a physical state. And I say that's the main thing. I also, Kevin, we've talked a little bit, but I am very interested in trying to open the door to audiences. I feel that our relationship to audiences have been very flat. It's transactional. How many people came? Did we make our budget? You tell them intellectually what a piece is about. They don't have this experiential necessarily orientation to the work, which is something that I've been really working on, is like, what can and I think actually Zoom is an interesting platform. Like, if you're coming to this show, join me for an hour the Sunday before, and I'm going to do some things with you so that you can get to know what I'm interested in this piece, without like intellectually talking about it so much. And I think that will help open the door to what this relationship with the audience is. I also feel like more sight work, less stage and audience sitting far away from it work allows just a little bit more interface that's less controlled, but more human and more inviting and welcoming. That's interesting to me right now.
I was muted, sorry. I'm going to go to Jan. Jan, go ahead, unmute yourself and go for it.
Thanks. Hi, Katie. Ormayo has been doing a lot more, we've been doing more and more site-specific work as a part of our season over time. Over the last 5 years, it gets to be more and more, but with the pandemic, obviously, site work has become more important than ever. Is that a trajectory you see ODC on?
I don't think we're all going in the same direction. Like, I think Brenda is really into film. I would say I'm much more interested in being on sites. And I think we're responding differently to this moment. And I think that's fascinating. But I do like sites. I feel like it allows that pedestrian thing to happen. The relationship of the human body to the sidewalk, to a wall, to a doorway. It puts the body in a setting that I like seeing it in. But yeah, I think also we're going to be spending so much time in this box I think getting out of this box into any kind of real world, like a real site, is going to be refreshing and meaningful.
Are there other questions here in the group? I put your hand up because I don't want to step on you if you have on your toes if you have a question, but I have slightly leading question, KT, which is you've already mentioned the beginnings of ODC as being sort of interdisciplinary, and I think I mentioned here at UCCS we have a Department of Visual and Performing Arts where the entire point is the prizing of the intersections of film, of dance, of theater, of visual arts, of gallery sciences, of music, of art history, and so forth. Is that still very important in the way that you view your aesthetic, the aesthetic of ODC? I'm trying very hard to not think too much about the differences between theater and dance, but rather why we are conjoined at the hip, if I could put it that way.
Well, I think everybody has their own sort of interior language, and for some people it's more verbal, a little bit more visual, more physical, and I think that kind of context allows for anybody that's not solely siloed into like physical expression or theatrical expression, that allows that kind of voice to develop. And I do want to say that I feel with the digital world that we're in, language is like not the same. It's like we're almost like this hieroglyphic of sound, some words, some movements, some imagery. I don't, some of us are dying that the written word has gotten so bastardized, but actually I think language is changing, and it is incorporating visual, audio, physical. And one artistic vision is heavily in one way, or a mixture of two, or a mixture of all of them. And so I think educationally that's invaluable to have that range, so that a young mind or creative mind spirit can step in there and find their way through all that medium and find out what's right for them.
Thanks. Is there? We have like 2 more minutes left. Is there one more? Tiffany, go ahead. Jump on in.
I loved that you shared how your process has changed, but I also wanted to ask, what are your go-tos? What are the things that you can count on every time that work for you when you're creating?
Okay. I know in the creative process, for the most part, it's fun. And then I'm like, I am sweating bullets. Like, I cannot figure out what to do with this thing. And I'm up all night, and it's like, this is not working. And I literally hate this moment. And I say to myself, oh, this is when you do something different. This is when you do. So this is something I know always happens, but this is the opportunity to do something I don't know, which is why I don't know what to do next. And then I just let my imagination try a million things. I talk to people, see what I get in my imagination in response to what they say. So that pretty much always happens. There's a terrifying moment in every piece where I don't know what to do. Sometimes 3 or 4. But it always lets me know that I get to step off the roof in a way that I hadn't expected.
Thanks. Because we just have a moment left, I just want to take an opportunity to thank you so much, KT, for being with us. And I know you're going to be meeting this week with some of our. My lights just went out. Oh, that's very dramatic lighting. Oh, there they go.
Different
well, I'm not obviously moving enough in the dance studio. They shut off the lights. You're going to be joining some of our advanced dancers this week, and they're so excited, and we are so happy to have had you. And I will say again, we're efforting as much as we can to have KT and ODC come to Colorado Springs as soon as we are allowed. So hopefully that'll be sooner rather than later. This has been wonderful. I just want to thank everyone who's been a part of this call, those of you who have been tuning in online. Of course, this will also be available on our YouTube channel. So if someone you know really wants to see this, you can go to the Prologue YouTube channel and watch it anytime. As I said in the beginning, and I'll say one more time, We're doing 2 more prologues next Monday and the Monday following. Next week is Larry Kagwin from Kagwin and Company in New York, which will be great. And then AJ is going to be interviewing Jess De La Luna and Ron Jules, there go my lights again, who are going to talk to us a little bit about hip hop on, I think, the 15th. It's all online on our webpage, so you can catch up there. With that, that just leaves me a moment to say, KT, all of you, thank you again. And thank you at home for joining us for Prologue.
Thank you, Kevin. And thank you all for joining us. I look forward to more.
Have a good night.